This episode was brought to you by our Patreons, with additional funding provided by the Barrel Bunnies. If you too would like to support the show, please visit www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit, where a donation of just $5 will get you access to our extended episodes, our high-quality 5x5 vinyl stickers of our cover art, and access to our Discord server, where we share memes and talk about weird stuff. This month, subscribers to our $20 and $60 tiers will receive 4x4 embroidered iron-on Barrel Bunny patches designed by Mari-sama herself and shipped to you with your other benefits at no additional cost. They'll be coming in near the end of the month, so please hang in there. I promise I will send them to you once I get them. I'm only receiving 100 as of now, so get them while supplies last. This week, we're talking yet again about Prometheus Rising, but this time we're going even higher, talking about the higher functioning circuits and what they mean for the future of evolution, both for humanity and for whatever sort of weird cyborg robot animal things you want to become. With that in mind, thank you and enjoy the show. Yo, dog.
I got the snack, I got the drink.
All right.
I got my notes in front of me. Hit me.
I'm gonna take a sip of this drink and get started.
Hello everybody and welcome to The Whole Rabbit, where, in the face of tumult and hardship, I have always been willing to put myself, my co-host and audience, in great personal peril in the glorious pursuit of amusement and science. It is in the spirit of dogged, bone-headed consternation and pride we have come to bash my thick skull yet again against the adamantine rock to which Prometheus is chained, that we may, by some accident of effort, loosen her shackles just enough to do the rest of the work for us, and deliver us the fire of inspiration that will light our way to the hospital, where all the king's horses and all the king's men attempt to put Hack Rabbit's egghead back together again. This week, I'm joined by the samurai queen of space, the great wolf herself, Mari-sama. Ari-sama.
Oh, hey everybody.
And the cosmic sand disruptor in the hourglass of eternity, Rona, the time witch.
Bueno, Arieluma, everyone. I love that intro. That was cool. I might steal that.
Why, thank you. I remember Rona saying early on that he had heard somewhere that this Prometheus Rising book was a real pain in the ass to summarize.
It is, yeah. I was doing some research because, it's been a while since I've read it. So I'm like, okay, let's see what other people on YouTube are talking about Prometheus. And the very first video I open up, within the first 3 minutes, Home Dog's like, so Prometheus Rising is kind of impossible to summarize all in one. It's an aggressive amount of information, but, I really like it because it is an aggressive amount of information. Like, for what it is, it's pretty understandable if you take your time.
Well, it's also relatable to a lot of other systems, which I find it easier to understand when it lines up so well with other stuff like Jungian concepts and what Timothy Leary's theories.
Yeah, Jung, Leary, Freud. He's got some, Korzybski in there. And then the Christian
Zen
Sciences.
Taoist stuff as well.
Yeah, he's all over the place. And that's what makes it such a good, but also difficult to summarize book. You can get a great bunch of knowledge in one place, and then you can go off from there. You can be like, okay, well, if I understand this very well, then I can go this way. Also, 8 circuits, it's pretty easy to memorize if you can remember the 8. They kind of correspond with the moon. I found out that.
And the days of the week, where you have one left over, which is everything.
Oh, yeah, because the 8th circuit is kind of like everything, just to ruin the ending, which is something we love to do on this show.
Hey-ho.
We left off the last show having described the first 2 circuits in some depth. They're the oldest, fastest acting, most primal active circuits, from which the other 5 circuits are built upon. Much like the episode where I described them, they were created slowly, arduously, and painstakingly through cycles of evolution too numerous to imagine. But aside from pooping and dying, not much else is going on. It's our higher circuits that we find our true spiritual expression. Open up, and we discover the freedom that we all know deep down inside is our birthright and destiny. Quote, one night in 1919, Count Alfred Korzybski, or something, whatever his name is. Korzybski, let's just say Korzybski, because that sounds cooler, awoke from a vivid dream, tears of joy streaming down his face, with a vivid sense that the passing of signals from generation to generation, the third circuit time-binding function, was what distinguished us from other primates.
Ooh. Can I? Did you say time binding circuit? Let me jump on. Can I? Let me loose.
That's what he calls it, the time binding circuit. He really sticks with this.
So with the time binding circuit, it's where we learn, how to really communicate with others. In the first two, it's how you stay alive. And you're right. We are the result of billions and billions of years of evolution. So if you're here, congratulations. A bunch of people failed to make you. So then after that, we realized, well, how do we communicate with each other? And that, time binding circuits where we learn how to package the world. You don't learn how to read the word fast right out the gate. You first have to learn what each word means, what each syllable means, what it sounds like. It's an agreed upon construct, which is where I think he gets the time binding circuit. I can't remember if Leary calls it the same thing. He relies heavily on also the 8 circuits that Leary talks about. I forget if Leary calls the third circuit the time binding circuit as well.
I think he might. I think it's pretty heavily based on that. And the reason he tried to hide it in the first half of the book is just because everyone was over Leary by that point. He had really ruined his reputation and people just didn't want to hear it, even though he basically created the personality tests that they use in prisons and stuff. And when he got into prison, he used his knowledge of his own test that he created to put himself in the lowest security ward and then broke out. So
yeah, it's actually really funny. He was corresponding with Anton Wilson during that time, and you can actually read their correspondence in his other book, Angel Tech. That's the one. And he talks about how he comes up with all the information in the other books, and he corresponds with our friend while he's in jail, and he's like, yeah, I'm here because I want to be. They can't get to me in my own mind. With time binding circuit, he's able to he knows what these things mean. It's all about reading signals
and being able to store them and understand the concept of time. This is arises in high functioning mammals. Also, is that if any animal that can plan ahead of time or uses any kind of language system or syntax would be considered also on this circuit.
I'm so happy you brought that up, because isn't it when we teach a chimpanzee or an ape sign language, they'll teach it to their kids?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is exactly what we're talking about.
Yes. Because it has something to do with evolution. If an animal gets pushed that far, they'll start using language and symbols to communicate with each other. Dolphins have language. Elephants have language. You can't hear it. Birds also have a certain kind of language.
What Anton Wilson describes the third circuit as, the human increment accelerates faster than pre-human evolution because through the third semantic circuit, its symbols, words, maps, equations are able to pass information, negative entropy, coherence from generation to generation. So this suggests that dolphins might have a cultural lineage or even an oral tradition, and by way of them having symbols or words, they are able to transmit information that way, generation to generation.
So that's what I'm saying, is that it's at different levels. It's not just only humans that experience this consciousness. This kind of reminds me of memes, because memes are little packets of information that we spread.
Yeah. Memes are universal language. My friend said that once.
And then notice how old memes last a really long time. There are even pre-internet memes. The first one was that little drawing from, I think it was World War I, of Kilroy was here. It's that little guy peeking over a fence.
It's pretty easy to draw.
There's lots, or the meme of the cave paintings where they blow pigment around their hands on the wall as a signature. So there's a lot of that in our cultures, but as time goes on, it accelerates faster and faster and faster. Now memes only last for a week or a few days.
Because they're not good. Jesus, the good.
Yeah, I know.
Longcat, Velociraptor. Longcat died, by the way. Moment of silence.
No.
Yeah, Longcat's toast. Big sad.
Two more will rise in Longcat's place.
How's Limecat doing?
Lungcat?
Limecat.
Oh, I don't know, actually.
Yeah, or Keyboard Cat. Good old Keyboard Cat.
Good old Keyboard.
Who are these cats? Anyway.
But the funniest thing... Go ahead.
I'm happy you brought up memes, because here it says what underlies the accelerations noted by Henry Adams and Korzybski is nowadays known as
selection of negentropy of a stochastic process. And what does that mean? And what does this have to do with memes? It's like this. It's like if you have access to a whole random amount of things, you basically, by selecting things out of that random sequence, you, by having collected those things, have basically made an expression of yourself or of your intelligence. This is a way to put it. I saw a meme the other day where it was like, man, she just wanted the dick. She didn't care about me or my memes, so like there's this idea that our memes, we have memes, or we like who has the spicy memes. So we select part of our personality and our culture out of, like, when you go on Giphy to look up a meme and punch it into Discord or whatever, or on Facebook or whatever, you're selecting out of a vast infinity, right?
It's also crowdsourced off of what other people have posted most of or have searched a lot of.
Well, the funny thing is, in Prometheus Rising, he actually explains how you can make a pretty goddamn solid meme. You ready for this? He says, the dynamicism of evolution, we repeat, is the selection of information coherence. If you've seen a meme a million times, you don't give a fuck. Example, roses are red, violets are blue, sugar is sweet, and so are you. Everyone's heard that poem. Unless the reader has lived in a relative isolation from American English folk culture, this poem has very little information. Then he goes on to explain, roses are red, ink is black. Do me a favor and go sit on a tack. So you think, you giggle. It produces a reaction. You're bending the reality because you're taking something that the person thought they knew and you're presenting new information, and that accelerates your brain. That's the time bound to information. Here's the third one he gives. The crude jest of a grade school origin has more information for the readers because it's less predictable. Another leap in the information content occurs in the following. Roses are red, violets are blue. You think this is gonna rhyme, but it ain't gonna. You see, at that point, you've not only changed the poem, you've changed the word, you've changed the cadence, you've changed the rhythm. It's all new information, and your brain is racing to apply it to symbols, to memory, to things like that. So I feel like with memes, if you can just come up with the hottest, newest shit that you can also relate to, bind the fourth circuit we're going to get to of emotion, then that's what makes hot memes.
Yeah, you got to bind it. Like, a lot of times memes will spin off into a bunch of other, like, different memes, like Advice Dog, and there's all these other different ones. Like, if you can base it off, you make a collection of stuff, or you base it off of something that was already successful, then your meme will go farther. Like, your information will actually travel farther if you attach it to something that already happened.
And then that meme, by you passing it on, is you're integrating it as part of yourself and you as a person, even if you didn't create it, because you selected it out of basically an infinity of possibilities. So that's what a stochastic process is.
Making children. It's like making children too, or choosing a partner.
Yes.
It's the same concept.
Fundamentally, exactly. And
writing a book.
Yes. Okay, writing a book. But what you said about selecting a mate, that's how the fourth circuit works with the third circuit. So you're definitely ahead of you're ahead of the subject, Mari, because you're smart.
I'm sorry. No, I'm not.
What Ronan was saying about how you're putting novel information into something that already exists and you're infusing it with what Robert Anton Wilson identifies here as negentropy. He also relates that to the concept of capital, because he says that, like, the capitalist assumes that all wealth comes from land, labor, and capital. The Marxist assumes that it comes from land and labor alone, and that the capitalist is a thief who's inserted an artificial bookkeeping process in. Both are wrong, he says. Land, labor alone, and land and labor and capital together can't produce new wealth if they're all organized by fallacious ideas, such as searching for oil where there is none. The real source of wealth is correct ideas, workable ideas. That is negative entropy, information. The origin of these coherent, workable ideas is the human nervous system. All wealth is created by human beings using their neurons intelligently. He's linking our ability to speak and pass on information, which he's calling negentropy, to our entire civilization, which we've seen in Time Wave Zero and other theories that Robert Anton Wilson talks about here, because I don't know if Mushroom Guy was talking back in those days, but this idea that civilization is going through like an asymptote, is that the right word, of acceleration towards, like what Ray Kurzweil called the singularity.
The transcendental object at the end of time thing that draws us forward. We talked about this in the time episode. There was an example that really grabbed me with this, is that how can we be experiencing more time in shorter intervals. So in a way, if you think about it, because we were talking about how it has to do with gravity and density, you know those little funnels at the mall that you can put a penny in and it goes down the tube?
Love those.
So when it's on the outside, obviously it's attracted to the center. So that's what the echelon or whatever the object at the end of time is that draws you towards it. But what these theories are all trying to tell us, and it's kind of interesting that like there's numerous different theories that are saying the same thing, is that as you go down that funnel, what does the coin do? It increases in speed, right? Yes. Like it makes revolutions faster and faster and faster and faster and faster until it hits that singularity. And then we don't know maybe the system expands again after that and it starts all over. But that's what they're trying to say when they say time is accelerating.
And it also in the text seems to talk about it moving west. And that's because information seems to pass better in places where there's less social moral resistance against new ideas. And it's in the creation of these new ideas that the wealth truly comes. And so the wealth has been moving steadily west, essentially. And by the time of this text, it had pretty much started to hit California with Silicon Valley. And it makes me really think of, the Jack Parsons era, how they were attempting to create a new religion based on something that was above even rationality. It was all these crazy new Fourth Circuit ideas. And the only way that they could expand from there was into space.
Yeah.
Because it seems the next circuit is pretty important, because what it does is it takes that accelerative thing we were just talking about in the Third Circuit, and then it like slows it down. It's like how once you're a parent, you're not cool anymore. It's like that.
Or how like dense objects like water will refract light. Like light moves a little bit slower or it skews it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's denser, so it's slower.
That's a cool example, because light does slow down depending on what medium it's placed in.
I think it's, it definitely slows down the information spiral, because at the third stage, which I guess Leary called the semantic stage or circuit, you're accumulating so much information at such speed that you need something to stop. You like a brick wall, and then that's where sex and all that choosing a mate and courting come into play, because that's a whole nother realm that you have to stop taking in information and actually utilize it to produce something new or novel.
Which brings us to the Fourth Circuit. Go ahead, Rona.
Oh, sorry. Anton mentions that it's like if you didn't have the circuit, your brain, he says here, your brain would essentially be an eternal monologue, because you'd be thinking all the time. You need something to slow it down. Time binding the transmission of symbols and across generations begins on the Third Circuit, but acute consciousness is, however, intensified on the Fourth Circuit. You aren't aware of time until the fourth.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because he explains the Third Circuit by itself as a cocaine rush. Have you ever met someone on cocaine and they will not shut up because they're just getting so stoked on what they're talking about?
So much information streams. It's like they don't have a filter to shut off what their brain is doing.
So he's saying with the right type of yoga or personality or drug or state of mind, you can reach that high with this circuit, the Third Circuit. And so what Rona's saying is once you go basically into your heart chakra or whatever, it's into this Fourth Circuit, the more socio-sexual circuit, it starts to slow it down and hem it back in to like the demands of the lower circuits again. It's like, slow down, cowboy. You know what I mean?
Which is weird, because it's also the sexual circuit where you want to kind of speed up. They have it linked circuit forward of wands and fire, which is weird.
Absolutely. And it does make some sense. And we'll get into that. That's probably the most fascinating part of this whole thing that I did not understand the first two times I read it. And now that I've studied tarot for a few more years, it makes sense to me, because this guy, Bob, studied all the Crowley stuff. I wouldn't call him a Thelemite, but he was into the stuff. Like, he tried it. What is the Fourth Circuit for?
Answer. This is what Bob says. The principal function of the socio-sexual circuit in the higher primates is to form an adult personality, a parent. By definition, a parent is one who cares for the young of the species. By genetic necessity, the parent also cares about the young. In symbolizing humans, this means planning, hoping, and having aspirations. In the language of mystics, this means being attached and trapped and mortality. Local taboos in the Wheel of Karma. The first effort in most mystical traditions is to break fourth circuit attachment by taking a vow of celibacy. Woo!
Sounds like a blast. Woo.
You can also use tantra, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either give it up entirely or learn to control it. That's what I like about magic.
So we did a whole episode on the devil card, so we won't talk too much about it, but that attached and that trap aspect in the devil card with the two sexes is one of the things that's hinted at in that card as well. And there is fire being applied to Adam. So boom, more correspondences to the devil card, because we're not obsessed with the devil and the whole rabbit.
And, Adam does have a wand.
Hello, I'm a Capricorn.
Come on, baby. Light my fire. Metal Gear. Where's the fourth circuit located? The fourth circuit's located in the left neocortex, the newest part of the left hemisphere of the brain. It is linked neurologically with the genitalia and the breasts, which he says is the fucking hugging, embracing, protecting circuitry. Woo! So, word to the big boobied out there. You may have a big old fourth circuit in this strange way of looking at the world.
I fly the itty bitty flag. Just want to say.
No, not me.
No, not me. I love it.
Mari, you're not all into the fucking hugging, sucking, embracing, protecting circuitry at all. That's not what you're about.
I mean, it's in there.
He says you need it, though. It's like required.
Yeah.
Well, he says it turns on when the socio-sexual circuit is imprinted at adolescence, when the DNA signal awakens the sexual apparatus. And
11 to 14 or something like that.
Gross.
It's like, during your first orgasm.
Yeah.
Also, if you're a late bloomer.
I think those things are somewhat attached a little bit,
I would hope so.
Well, the DNA is activated at puberty by the endocrine glands, like your pituitary gland.
By the Disney Channel.
You have no idea how true.
Look, man, I don't have time to do a whole episode on it, but Glossaric is a dick. Let's just get it out of the way.
We should do an entire episode on just Disney, dude.
Okay, Glossaric is blue, right? Isn't he blue?
Yeah, dude.
What else rhymes with blue?
Glue? Who? He eats pudding. He eats pudding, and there is this idea in the occult where like sodomy is the most that's the path to Da'at and the secret wisdom and the stuff. That's you got to do butt stuff. You always got to do butt stuff.
You guys missed my 4chan joke. Sorry.
It's okay.
Yeah, and I think it's okay to talk about this in this section because it has to do with parenting.
I'd rather talk about butt stuff.
Like, why is Glossaric a dick in a kid's show? I don't know. As a parent, I'm a little concerned, even though as my third circuit mentality thinks it's fucking hilarious. Like, I think the whole show, Star versus the Forces of Evil, is fucking hilarious. But my third circuit does. But my fourth circuit is like, what the hell are they?
If you think Disney's bad, it's, not the worst, but...
Okay, so what happens when the fourth circuit becomes activated? The teenager becomes the bewildered possessor of a new body and a new neural circuit oriented to orgasm and sperm egg fusion. The pubescent human, like any other running animal, lurches about in a state of mating frenzy, every call gasping for the sexual object. Imprint vulnerability is acute, and the first sexual signals to turn on the adolescent nervous system remain fixed for life and forever define the individual's sexual reality. We should not be surprised, therefore, at the various fetishes that are so easily acquired in these sensitive moments.
There you go.
I had a hard time in psychology, taking my classes and finding anything that said it that clearly. But it seems like once you read it, you're like, oh yeah, that's probably how it works, right? You know what I mean?
Well, something that's interesting is that I think you can also, if you're imprinted heavily in a lower circuit as well, that can become a paraphilia or a fetish. Like people who like to dress up like babies, who like to act like babies, they're like the first circuit. they're like fixated on the oral.
Yep.
And then people that, and it goes on from there. It's like you can be fixated to any circuit of these four. So it doesn't have to just be sexual fetishes. It could be like, anything that you're obsessed with.
Yeah.
Money.
So if you dress up like a doggy and you're like on the leash and all that, that might be like maybe a lot of second circuit going on, like dominance and.
Yeah, because my feelings of control and personal boundaries were violated when I was young. So that, like, being in control of being vulnerable is what that's about, is allowing the vulnerability where you can feel safe or in control of the situation.
I feel like that kind of feeds into the next, if you want to jump to Circuit 5. I mean, talking about how our experiences in the past shape the way we are now.
I mean, I think they're all built on top of each other that way, though.
Now this,
I know, right? We
that
can literally segue at any second. It's great.
Now that Borderlands, though, is probably the most important one in the whole episode and in the whole like scheme we're studying, because that's where it goes from the antique circuits to the new circuits. So we got to talk a little bit, like also like we got to talk a little bit more about the weird sex stuff, because that's what.
Yeah, I know. But one thing I want to say is
Ron is
that
like over
after
it. He's
this,
like, I don't want to talk about this shit. It's fucking lame.
I'll do it. And, like, okay,
Mar's
but
like,
after
please,
this
let's talk
circuit,
more about it.
After this circuit is a paradigm shift. So there is like there's some residual stuff you have to go through before you can actually leap out of it. Because this is like the biggest turning point. Once you get over this circuit, or once you integrate it, then you can move on to the higher realms much easier.
Fifth Circuit and beyond is all like controlling your own brain and unwiring all the bullshit that they put in there stuff.
Yeah, and you don't want to do that until you're like fully mature and your brain stops like pouring out weird hormones and shit.
No, I'm not there yet.
To like, well, you might not be.
Now, if you're a fan of the show, may have figured out that through a delicate occult process of losing my mind chaotically, I managed to somehow flippy dip my circuits in some way where I had an experience of the higher circuits. And I'll probably bring it up again later, but to be totally like full confession and in a practical occult way, that if you need to break past these antiquated circuits into the higher ones, I partially achieved that through forced celibacy by doing no FAP. And then I did sigil work with fapping, and it was later that evening that I experienced the experience I had in the higher realms. So there was something to say about that, how basically committing blasphemy against this circuit caused it to just either turn off for a while or function in some alternative way that allowed me to break through. So I have a lot of I really like how Robert Anton Wilson talks about yoga and yogic methods being a form of clever trickery, which is one way to translate. I don't have the word here, but it
simulates the same experience in a more creative way. Like you're making it more abstract, but your lower nervous system still interprets it as the same thing. Like your no fap and then fapping on the sigil would be like the same thing as like making love or getting it out of your system with a girl.
But like after it's been built, after your system is completely more like morally, you've had to trick your circuit and be like, no, don't do this, So whether like you have to trip a lot
harder. It's difficult.
So once you've achieved that to some level where you're like over it, where you don't need to masturbate anymore, and then you suddenly have like a crazy powerful sexual experience, it's like I think this causes this circuit to just freaking spaz out, like, and you can suddenly leap into the higher realms that way. And so I mean,
you can do it with the third circuit is like the yogic breathing exercises where they basically hyperventilate or breathe one nostril and the other nostril for your brain,
That's rad.
So there's an exercise in the book too.
And then for the first circuit, you use regular yoga. I forgot what the second circuit is, but swimming helps it. So there's different like actual exercises you can do to also, like you said, it like inverts the circuit in a way, and you can still pass through it by doing like activities on your own.
Right, absolutely. How do humans account for this socially? Primates, so-called, know these facts and are surrounded at all points of imprint vulnerability with rituals, ordeals, rites of passage, well designed to imprint the desired traits of a, quote, well-integrated member of the tribe at the time. Relics of these imprint ceremonies survive in baptism, confirmation, bar mitzvahs, marriage ceremonies, and the Masonic raising. So I think that's pretty fascinating. So we want to imprint people a certain way, but the fact is most people don't. And this is what Bob has to say about that. Most humans do not, due to accidents of all sorts, imprint exactly the socio-sexual role demanded by their society. The fourth circuit can be called the guilt circuit. Almost everybody, almost everywhere, is quite busy hiding their real sexual profile and miming the accepted sex role for their gender. This is like in the 70s. So in ordinary language, the imprint on the socio-sexual circuit is generally called the mature personality, or the sex rule. It is the parent in the jargon of transcendental analysis. So now we're back to what, Freud or Jung?
Yeah, those two.
Yeah.
Honestly, I like at some points you can use them interchangeable.
He's also saying that even though no culture shares the same taboos about sex, every culture has them. So that's the function of the circuit, and why he says if you're a royal in like Egypt, you might have to marry your sister. But if you've ever married your sister before, you're not likely to be a U.S. president ever because you've broken the taboo, you know? And you probably have to be married to be a U.S. president. Has anyone ever run for president and not been married? You know what I mean?
I'll do it.
They're mirroring the accepted sex role for their gender in their tribe.
I will run hella single. Everyone's going to be single by the time I run for president anyway. If you think about it, the way shit's going, everyone's going to be single by that point. Relationships are going out. They're just too hard. They're too hard. Like, I think that's what they're gunning for too with this circuit. They're trying to make relationships like nobody wants to be.
It keeps you from making.
I'm so happy you brought this up. I kind of agree with you here because it's this circuit that it's like the last thing to it's the last thing to go. They said in Robert Anton Wilson's Prometheus Rising, it says that when two tribes meet together, they go through all this talking and they figure out what works and so your God is this and my God is this. Okay, maybe they can get along, you know? And it's like they have this back and forth, but the last thing to go is always the sexual taboos. It's like the last thing. So in my opinion, if people are trying to and this is coming from somebody who wants to change sexual taboos, it's going to be the last thing to change in the human psyche and as part of the antiquated circuits. Just based on what it says here in the book. Do you think that's true?
Well, because he noted also on a group level, circuits lag behind most individuals. You'll have people on the cusp of stuff, people tripping on acid or taking DMT and going into the higher realms. Or you have a few adept yogis that can actually get to that level with meditation practices. But, most human beings on the planet throughout their whole lives only get through the first four circuits, is what Bob was trying to say, is that a lot of people don't ever break out of that final fourth circuit.
And then he mentions that's why homosexuals, historically speaking, have been such big donators of culture, art, music, because they haven't been limited by that circuit. And so sometimes through not having to take on a traditional sex role or traditional parent role, that they're able to jump into fifth circuit bliss, which is kind of important because that's where the circuits jump from the antiquated ones to the new ones. And so
I don't know. I would say that if you have more money and time because you don't have kids, I would argue that the products of your labor or your thoughts, your artwork, how you express yourself, the books you write, the stuff you create around you, your business, all of that stuff is a spiritual child.
Okay.
And that it's a sexual process, but it's all conceptual, abstracted, and right-brained. It has nothing to do with, it has little to do with reproduction and on physical basis, on physical reality. But
I actually agree with you. Yeah. When you're making something, it is sexual.
Right. It is. And even you say homosexuals don't have the sexual circuit, they experience it in different ways. They're able to express this circuit in different ways, including art and music and adding to culture. Cause that's really all they had. That was their place in culture for a long time because they didn't if you don't make children for the workforce, you have to add to society in some way. So a lot of times they were either Patreons or they would make art themselves or.
So that's what Bob is saying is they, as a group, have advanced culture and society like more than any other group, which is kind of fun.
And I would also argue too, like even in animal groups or in basic humans, a lot of sexual person in the tribe would take care of the young, so it would give leisure time to the other people. So there's a lot of slots in society where they fit in, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to take a mate and perform, the rigid gender roles of society in order to participate in the circuit.
Absolutely, but there are rigid gender roles built into that circuit. That's kind of what it's for.
But I like your point about how the gays are able to access the alternatives much easier.
So without totally just listing off every single court card, which is like a lot of them, because I can't do math. Basically, you can map these 4 circuits, these antiquated circuits, onto the tarot. Usually when you read the tarot, the knights are fire, but if you flip that around, it becomes like Bob's way of interpreting the tarot, and it makes a lot of sense. So the knights are earth, and then the queens are water, and then the princes are air or the sword, and then princesses are fire. And then you have the first circuit, which corresponds to earth, the second circuit, which corresponds to water, the third circuit, which corresponds to air. Different. You can take all these different combinations of the first 4 circuits, and they explain the personalities in the tarot and explain why the core cards are even there in the first place. Bob says this because like this is what they were trying to tell you. Like these are the parts of your personality, right, that you are made up of, and it's only by balancing this court do you attain the godly power. The Tetragrammaton itself is Yod He, Vau He is the fire, which is 4th circuit, water, which is the 2nd circuit, air, the 3rd circuit, and then He, which is the 1st circuit. And so he says, oh wow, the Tetragrammaton is this scheme. So it's this idea that, yeah, once we have mastered these lower circuits, can we experience the higher ones? And it's in our esoteric stuff. Whew, that was a mouthful.
So, yeah, what I was saying is like after you master those circuits, like you were saying, then you experience a paradigm shift where you move to the higher circuits.
Yes.
So you're operating in a completely different realm at this point. And yes. I think as you go over, like as you have these experiences in the 4th circuit, a lot of times empathy will arise out of that. And empathy is the first step into the next cycles.
Being able to feel someone else's emotions.
Or to be able to, how you were saying the purpose of these exercises is to make your reality tunnel, the edges.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
In someone else's shoes, right? i.e. empathy, that's further dissolving the edges of your reality tunnel. So that's what empathy is, the next step, I would say, after you have this 4th circuit sexual, like you're discovering the other person as a human being like you in that circuit.
Right. Becoming aware that, you have feelings that can vibe with somebody else's feelings. Oh, wait, they have feelings similar to mine and they can feel them. Maybe they feel, maybe we're the same.
And something really cool too that I was reading about is the 4th circuit has to do with the master of the duality, or the black and white, the 1 and the 0, the right and the wrong, the red and the blue. The 4th circuit is about mastering the duality of life, like the black and the white. And then when you go over that threshold, you kind of come out of that binding box and you can see the gray. You can finally like look at it and see the gray, like the gray of the situation, which is what we were talking about, like empathy. Like, well, if somebody if somebody disagrees with you now at this point, if you're out of the 4th circuit and you've transcended, you can actually go back in and be like, okay, well, why did they feel that way? And you can logically reason yourself into their own reality tunnel in a way, like you're kind of taking from their reality tunnel as well. It's like integration with other people instead of just yourself.
That sounds very 4th circuit to me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but we're in a transitory period though, you're transitioning out of it. So there's going to be like vestigial remnants of both, yes. I'd say, of both circuits in this period.
Well, each of us has a favorite circuit, it says here too, which is pretty fascinating. So like for circuit favorites, they're narcissistic oral. They're like the narcissist in every group. And if they're presented with a problem, they'll immediately look for someone else to handle it. The oral stage is robotically imprinted for dependency. So if they're imprinted with hostile weakness instead of dependent weakness, they'll explode into anger, infantile tantrum, raging that there's a problem that even exists and it has been imposed on them. Just kind of a funny
So that's like the baby. Then the second circuit type in the same situation will attempt to frighten the problem away by barking and blustering at it in a mammalian fashion. It's like beating their chest.
Or bristling trying to look bigger than you are, trying to be more imposing. Like guys with big trucks got something to prove.
Well, what if a guy just needs a lot of clearance for his huge schlong? And you ever think about that?
No.
Nobody ever thinks about that. Not every one of those
Nobody
guys.
ever thinks about that.
A regular truck big dick. Sorry.
Look, every time I sit down in my tiny ass car, my dick drags against the ground. I need to be higher up off the ground. That's all it is. Why?
It's necessity. It's actually it's actually a higher
Come on, you guys.
problem.
Come on, you guys. No.
Third circuit problem. What, Luke?
Yeah, so a third circuit type will try and reason out the problem. Exactly. So the best approach. So if your dick is hanging on the ground, you do need a bigger truck. So how do you make
put a lift on it?
They're good at making machines work, right? So if you have a big dickus problem and have a hard time keeping it off the road, you may ascertain with your third circuit type will be like, well, according to the length of his dickus, you have to raise the truck this many inches in order to keep his dickus off the road.
Oh Lord, I don't think so.
This is great.
And so he's like, well, if you scare or frighten the third circuit type enough, he'll start acting like the lower circuit people too. He'll be like, okay, fine, I'll do it. You know what I mean? Or like, he'll be like, I don't want to do it.
Wait, but then like, where does the fourth circuit come in? Because the fourth circuit is your ability to realize that logic.
This is great. So the fourth circuit type will try to be rational, but it will use emotional dimensions of the problem, second circuit, and will try to impose a moral solution. So this is the decent thing to do. This is the fair thing to do. So it might not even make sense to the third circuit rationalist who's looking for justice or objective justice. He's like, what the fuck kind of, like, no, you need to punish the bad guys and reward me because I'm smart. You know what I mean?
Those are the guys who stick flags in their truck. I'll just use it for my flag. It makes sense. It's perfect. That way, I've always wanted a truck. My dad had a truck. That's emotional enough, right? Okay, 3 reasons to get a truck.
It's good enough for my daddy.
Good enough for my daddy.
If it's good enough for my daddy, it's good enough for me.
Now, then the third circuit person would be like, look, there's no reason to put a flag on a truck. Okay, why are we driving around with flags on our trucks? Okay, it makes no sense. It's bad. It's bad aerodynamic. It's going to draw political attention to you.
Pay money with gas. And
then the fourth circuit person is like, now listen, if you want to have a flag on your truck, everyone should be allowed to have a flag on their truck. You know what I mean? It's like it's like it's trying to find like a fair solution that's good for the whole people.
Make it a rainbow flag.
Yeah. See, it's a rainbow of flags.
Sorry for interrupting. My inner Metatron's wanting to scream this. So with circuits, you can look at them like the tree of life formation. So the first one is the first circle, right? And that's you. You don't realize that you're anything, but you exist. And then the second circuit, you realize that you are a thing. You have a reflection. You can begin to say, oh, that's something over there.
I'm above this or I'm below this.
Yeah, that's the third circuit. You look at both choices and you're like, oh, these are two separate things I could have done. And then the fourth circuit is realizing you made a choice because of this. And these are the two options you could have had. We're slowly becoming aware of more and more parts of our makeup.
Or like even being able to imagine, like, what if I did that at a certain point of time?
Exactly.
You start playing in time and being like, well, imagining situations like, what if I chose this instead?
That's time binding,
like,
right?
You can analyze it because that's what you were saying is like when you're in the third circuit, you can't really like conceptualize it. You're just in it. But like you said,
you have to make a choice right then. You got to make a choice. Make a choice.
And then you move up and you're like, okay, well, I can like in retrospect, like, why am I attracted to my partner? Why do I want to make this movie? Why do I want to draw this picture? Like you can kind of
good enough for my daddy.
You could, because I had a shit week. Like you can look back or like be like, I want to make a better future for myself, so I do this.
Right.
I think to wrap up the free show, we need to talk about how to brainwash the first four circuits.
Yeah, this is like part of, some people want to learn the higher circuits just to do this.
Right. So that's why you have to pay money to hear the whole show. It's only $5, people. Just go to www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit and you get all the extended shows for free. And I will send you stickers that are very expensive to ship you. And so I'm really only making a little bit. So help a rabbit out.
If you donate, that means that Hack Rabbit can put food in his mouth.
Well, hey, I'm going to send out patches to the big donors.
Oh my God. I can't wait. They look so good.
And Mari designed them, and they're going to be cool as fucking hell. Okay, so how do we brainwash the first few circuits? So according to Bob, most people, except nudists, are shy about appearing naked in public. So he says, like, this is a common nightmare. You're in public with no clothes on. So the first step in leaving the civilian reality tunnel and being initiated into the army reality tunnel is thus the physical examination, in which the subject is stripped naked and made to march around in a large building with other naked victims, while fully clothed army personnel give the briefest possible orders. Stand up, sit down, go there, come back here. In Masonic initiation, which only removes part of the clothes on the subject, the milder version of the stripping away of previously secure social parameters is what that symbolizes. What's really being stripped away is more subtle. It's the whole social system, which one has lived in before they were snatched by the United States, or the Masons, I guess. So when a doctor tells the naked draftee, bend over, spread your cheeks, so-called normal reality has ended, and a total new one has begun for the victim, and as if they've been incorporated into some surreal movie. So it's like, you got to reduce people to children to re-imprint the first circuit. You have to make them vulnerable to re-imprinting.
Or tie them to a chair is another one, or put something on their head to
join the military.
Right. It's those situations that make you want to cry for mommy is really really resonates with that. Like, you have to dress someone down to that point.
And then once they're to that point, you take the mask off, right, of the face, and you say, this is your new mommy. And then they imprint that as like, okay, so if I'm good, this person will give me food or comfort. And then if I'm bad, they'll punish me.
This is like where Stockholm syndrome comes from.
Yes, absolutely.
With captives. This is how they brainwash captives to serve the aggressor.
So yeah, the first circuit bio-survival instincts become hooked to obeying those who have this awesome power, just as the infant learns to hook its bio-survival circuitry to the parental figures. Then, only after a few hours of pure isolation may it be necessary before hallucinations begin. These hallucinations, like those of a psychedelic drug, indicate the breaking down of previous mental imprints and the onset and vulnerability to new imprints. The first human being who appears to the subject after this isolation can easily become bonded as the mother substitute. So that's what we just talked about. And then that applies to the draftee in the military. It applies to somebody who's been kidnapped on an airplane, and it applies to somebody who's entered into a cult. Oftentimes, when you are introduced to a cult, you're love bombed and you're given all this food and affection, which is meant to help you form that parental bond with your new cult leader.
They want you to look at them for nourishment.
Which is what the Eucharist is about, is what he says. So
in summer.
Yeah, so in the biosurvival circuit, it's key to nourishment. So those who bring food become possible subjects for bonding. The political prisoner, the draftee, the subject kidnapped by terrorists are all moved closer to identifying and bonding with their captors as they're fed regularly. This is imitated in various religions as the Eucharist. So it's like, you're on your knees in front of a priest and he feeds you the cracker. That's because he's your daddy.
And then,
yeah, if you don't put that on a goddamn t-shirt, I swear to God.
Well,
cracker from daddy.
It's your daddy God. It's he feeds you, or
Yeah, but it's like also Salvation Army is based on that. Like, I remember learning that that you have to go to Sunday service and hear the sermon before you can get fed there if you're homeless.
Oh,
that's how they hook everyone in, is that if you're needy, and that's another thing is, like, if you can make a victim out of someone, if you can make someone feel like a victim, that they're unable to care for themselves and they need someone to help them, and then you come in and you help them, it's so easy to brainwash someone that way, because you're like, well, I've got all the solutions right here for you, and I'm such a good person. Well, I'm going to help you out. Like, it's, how do you resist that? Especially if you're in a huge, like, to me, like, degrading someone to this point, you have to use a lot of fear tactics.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. To re-imprint the first circuit, because it's the fastest acting and the oldest, it can cause the other ones to shut down. And that's the whole idea, is you want to traumatize someone down to their first circuit and then build them back up. And then
you can do this additionally through like top dog, bottom dog sort of imprinting, and that's how you get into their second circuit. So you want to scare them to the point where they want to like get approval from you. And at first you want to like tell them they're no good, they'll never be good enough, they're a piece of shit. You want to use a lot of poop.
I'll hurt you. I'll kill you. I'll hurt your family.
And then if they start to like do what you say, then you want to like reward them a little bit.
Or establishing boundaries and do and don't and reward and punishment at the second stage.
And so it even says here that with subtle reinforcement, the person who first begins is acting because they have to, and eventually the acting eventually becomes sincere. So the ideal cult leader knows that people are faking it at first, but they're like, yes, keep faking it, because the more you fake it, you'll eventually not be faking it anymore.
Like how you fall asleep, you got to pretend first.
Yeah. I mean, that if you repeat something over and over again, or if you have the same stimulus feeding back over and over again, the person starts to believe that that's their reality tunnel kind of constricts down into that, and that's all they see.
And that's, yes, it's also important then to, when you reimprint the third circuit, is to give them a symbol system to master and have them be sufficiently motivated by that second circuit need to feel accepted and to not be hurt. And then they start to get a new reality tunnel out of this new semantic mapping. So he says, at this point, a certain amount of arbitrary nonsense is of great value. That is, the new reality tunnel or symbol system, like the old one, should contain pitfalls, gross violations of previous reality tunnels and common sense, so that the subject can be accused of backsliding, being wrong, and go through the whole imprinting process again, thereby inciting it to try harder to become part of the new reality tunnel. The neurological and sociological function of such nonsense, which makes the rationalist gasp in shock, is to sharply segregate those within the new reality tunnel from those on the outside. This makes for group solidarity, group reinforcement, a strong sense of alienation and discomfort when, on the rare occasions, it's necessary to talk at all with those on the outside of the brainwasher semantic system. So this is like when Scientologists label someone as suppressive.
Yeah, and they use language a lot of times, or they try to use your emotional circuit to try and deter you from going down that path again. So I don't know. It's so weird how this like pops up in other like psychiatric theories.
And then how do you brainwash the fourth circuit? This is what he says. It's no secret that the most powerful secret society of the Middle Ages, the Knights Templar, forced recruits to participate in both blasphemy and sodomy, just as the deliberate nonsense of all cultish third circuit semantics isolate the group from the rest of society. This initiation separated the Templars from the rest of Christendom. The alienation could easily be conditioned into a sense of superiority.
Blackmail.
Oh, hey,
yeah, blackmail too.
Look, if you don't go and have sex, you don't get your next paycheck, and then a couple years down the line, if you don't listen to what we're going to tell you, you better fucking hope to God we lost that video.
They didn't lose the video.
Of course, they never lose the video.
So there's some other cool things in the text, like how each circuit sees the world, but I think we're ready to move on to the higher circuits now. And because most people don't even have those higher circuits, it's like how most people probably won't go to www.patreon.com/thewholerabbit and get the whole episode for $5. Shameless plug. Okay, so with that in mind,
sorry, but I loved your fake advertisements on the last show. I gotta say that real quick.
You know what? This episode was brought to you by Pocket Bong. And with that, thank you, everybody. Eat carrots and shoot lasers.
Pew, 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 pew.